and welcome to Early Childhood Ireland's podcast, which features interviews and discussions on all issues relating to high quality in the early years and school aged care sector. In our episodes, we've a range of speakers who are leaders in the areas that matter to Early Childhood Ireland members. This podcast series is proudly supported by Aricus Insurance, which offers a comprehensive range of cover at discounted premiums for both business and personal insurance products. So visit www.aricus.ie for more information. I'm Maura Corbett and I work with Early Childhood Ireland. In this episode, we're going to delve into the new suite of courses called Elevate that are located on Early Childhood Ireland's Learning Hub. Most of our members are aware of this wonderful member benefit at this stage. Using the Learning Hub to support staff training can save members substantial amounts of money, as all the courses are free to members and their staff. Now, that's apart from a nominal fee to cover some practical aspects of some courses. On the Learning Hub, there's a vast array of courses in the compliance space. These range from a huge selection of health and safety courses to computer skills and personal development courses. And the Learning Hub is expanding and growing all the time. Earlier this year, we launched the Pedagogy Space, which currently hosts This Is Me and also Kids Active. And there are plans for more great content to be added there soon. A few weeks ago, we were delighted to add 12 more courses to Early Childhood Ireland's Learning Hub under a tab called Elevate. The courses on this tab are on the theme of well-being. In there, you'll find micro-modules on everything from mindfulness to stress management to eustress, which is the management of good stress. There's diversity and neurodiversity, and that's just to name a few. So to kind of tease out some of the issues that managers need to be aware of in relation to employees' well-being, I decided to ask my colleague Gillian Moore, who's the Strategic HR Manager at Early Childhood Ireland, to come on the podcast and have a chat. Gillian has been on the podcast before talking about employee well-being, minding yourself and so on. So Gillian, you're really welcome back to talk about the importance of supporting employees' well-being, as well, of course, as managers being aware of their own. So you're welcome and thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me back, Maura.
So I was thinking, settings are really busy and, there's a lot going on, especially this time of the year, gearing up for a new year. And I just wanted to, get your thoughts on why it's important to be aware of well-being from a manager's point of view. As I said in the introduction there, the well-being of your staff, but also your own well-being. At a busy time, it can nearly seem like another task to be added, but there's a lot more to it than that, isn't there?
Yes, there really is. And I can actually imagine managers listening to this thinking, oh my God, this is another thing for my list. And sort of the irony of talking about well-being and it seeming like we're adding to managers' workloads. But from a manager's perspective, well-being, and you probably know this yourself, everyone does when, something maybe, and it's not necessarily something that's happening in work, but something that's happening that's impacting your well-being can affect you in work. So there's no beginning and end to it, so we talk about workplace well-being, but it's unfortunately not as simple as that. So managers being aware of it and what's not knowing the personal details of people's lives, but the importance of well-being and how it can affect people in work can help in the workplace. It can help people's mental and physical health. It can help how engaged they are in their work, how engaged and connected they are to their colleagues, and of course to the children that they're working with. So to add this to your to-do list can have really positive impacts on other aspects. So if for example, maybe there's concerns around absenteeism in a setting, it could be that it's a side effect of impacts on people's well-being. So it's well worth, and the research shows that it's well worth looking at it, discussing it, and kind of integrating it into your framework of your everyday for all of your employees and yourself, and having it as something that's openly discussed, and focused on, and make everybody kind of responsible for their own and each other's well-being, to have that positive impact in the workplace and outside of the workplace.
I think, when you break it down, it kind of makes sense. And a lot, I'm even listening to you there, I'm reminded of Barry Labor's theory around from the University of Louvain that we often talk about, and his belief that well-being and involvement are the key indicators of quality in early years provision. And I suppose you can apply the same principles, if you like, to a workplace, that if educators, if staff feel well in themselves and can be involved in their work in a very positive way, that only adds to quality and the whole well-being of a whole setting as a whole. Would you agree?
That, you can't pour from an empty cup. A phrase that people use often. It's that thing, you have to feel well in yourself. And as I say, that could be psychological, social, physical, financial. Like there's well-being, and I really was excited when Elevate was added to the Learning Hub and those courses. And even when you click into it and you see the vastness of what they cover, it strikes me then that the realization of that well-being means different things to different people at different times in their lives. So it could be that you're dealing with stress. It could be that, you said diversity or neurodiversity, you don't feel valued, you don't feel recognized, and that's impacting on your well-being. And that doesn't, as I say, doesn't have to be in the workplace or only in the workplace. It could be that feeling of lack of respect and value, and that's having a negative impact on you. People post-COVID, and really afraid to mention COVID, like we're past it, but people maybe got themselves into situations where they're sort of socially isolated and they don't know how to get back out of that. And that's recognized there. It could be that you're a bit of a perfectionist at work, and making a mistake is something that you find very difficult to handle, and that's covered in there. So there's really good courses in there, and I think different people will recognize themselves in the different courses. So what's useful for managers is, and again, I'm not suggesting you have to sit down and do all the courses in one, but it will help you recognize different aspects of well-being and how it could be impacting on your employees, and then how you implement that into your policies and procedures and how you carry out work. So it's about recognizing it, everybody being aware and understanding the different aspects of well-being, and then that can be kind of filtered through to team meetings. Maybe have it as a something you talk about regularly at team meetings. Or it could be something like in support and supervision. I touched on the making of mistakes. If somebody recognizes themselves in the course and they talk to their manager about it, like, I'm really hard on myself when I make mistakes, that could be brought into your support and supervision then. Like, how can I support you to go a little easier on yourself? What do we need to do? Make it a learning, make it a positive thing. If somebody's feeling socially isolated, maybe you just need to look at the rotas for breaks and say, look, actually, I realize you end up on your break on your own a lot. So try to, and I know with staffing and everything, I appreciate that this isn't easy, but it could be like, a couple of times a week, I've been able to jig the breaks around, and you're going to have your lunch with somebody and they can grab a walk or have a coffee or, so I think that the benefit of these courses and the different types of courses show how well-being is means different things, and that how as managers you can tackle that individually with people, and then also as a group, so that people take their own responsibility for their well-being and their colleagues, and then you start to see those positive impacts in the workplace for everybody.
And you've touched on some of the courses there already, and you've also mentioned the importance of follow through, that simply assigning somebody to do the course on, let's say, coming back from a workplace mistake, or mindfulness or eustress, saying, Gillian, do this course and everything is sorted. You've touched on that's not enough, that you need to, I suppose, understand and help the staff member understand why you're suggesting that they do this course, and then ask them afterwards how they found it, and see how you can help them implement the strategies that they've covered in the courses.
Well, as a sector and our members and the educators that work with our members are very reflective by nature, and then any kind of learning, there's always that reflective element. So it's to treat it, treat it in the same way and bring it back to the setting and to the conversations, as I say, as a group, maybe in team meetings or individually in supervision, and reflect on the structure of the workplace, the policies and procedures, social connections, how we, even down to how you recognize staff achievements, respect and value diversity. There's loads in there, but it's about being reflective after the fact, and it doesn't mean an overhaul of all your policies or how everything is done. You learn something small from every piece of learning you do, and you make it could be a small change that has a massive impact. And it's doing that as a group, I think, is useful in that collaboration. And you were touching on like what the sort of indicators might be of well-being, and there are those. It's around awareness, feeling connected, taking responsibility, resilience, and those kind of things. And I think you're always stronger in a group, really. So if everybody is in the mindset to do it, it's easy to be reflective and have the learning from it without it being too cumbersome. Whilst it's important that managers are aware and encourage their team to do these, there's an element of responsibility that everybody has as well. So it doesn't have to be a burden.
And I suppose when you mention about courses sometimes maybe being burdensome or cumbersome or whatever, I suppose it's important to say these are what they call micro modules. So, half an hour will see them done. And the beauty of the Learning Hub is that they are free for managers and their staff. And, if there's, time during the day, it can be done during work time. And if things get busy, you can press pause and return to it, go back to your room and attend to what needs to be done. So it's quite easy to support staff. You're not releasing staff for a day to go somewhere to do any of the courses on the Learning Hub, not just Elevate, which I think is one of the massive advantages of the Learning Hub, isn't it?
Yeah, it's literally on the go. So and particularly these Elevate ones and some of the other courses, they're quite short as well, and mobile friendly, the whole lot. So, it could be half an hour on the bus. You might normally listen to a podcast, and then instead, pop on one of these courses. And there's loads of, actually, I was, having a good look at Wellbeing, as you can tell, is a subject close to my heart. So it's something I'm interested in. So even in the Elevate section, there's pieces that you can read, like articles and blogs and things. So if you're not in the humor to listen or do a course, you could just read an article. There's 10 tips on healthy eating, or planning your lunches for the week, all of those kind of things. So, and again, they're activities that you can do as a group within your setting, and say, look, will we all meal plan for the week and try and eat a bit healthier, or will we all try and get a walk in, or whatever the case is. So there's loads of handy stuff in there. And again, like for managers, something like Wellbeing, it's so vast, and everybody wants their staff to be well, but it's like, where do you start? This is a brilliant start. It's there. You can encourage the team to do it. It's not going to take too much time. They can pick the topics they're interested in, or they feel would benefit them, and then it starts a conversation. And that's always a positive thing. Get things out in the open and go, what could we be doing a little bit better? So everyone feels a bit better. So even from the manager's perspective, I can imagine if a few staff members did the courses, the conversations they'll just flow, and put heads together and come up with some ideas. So it's not even all on the manager. It's even just doing this one step of making this available and encouraging staff to do it is a huge step to making impacts in work. And Wellbeing, the person has to want to be better in whatever area is maybe that's affecting them, and take steps themselves. And it's the manager's role is to, have that awareness and create that supportive environment. So, by, as I say, this one step of making the course available, that's a huge part of that.
I really like the idea actually of doing some of the shorter ones, or even some of the short reads, because they're very pictorial, the short reads that I looked at, doing it for 10 minutes in a staff meeting or something.
Yeah.
So everybody kind of comes to a shared understanding. And I suppose it's not, I was very taken with the eustress one. It was a new term to me, that idea of positive stress, that it's, moving into a new room. And yes, you're nervous about maybe a new age group or new group of children, but it's that kind of good, positive kind of nervous energy that can be exciting and a bit exhilarating. So, there's it's not all, you have to find time for mindfulness, you have to reduce stress, you have to eat healthy. There's a lovely mix in there. One of the things that you mentioned earlier, and I think it's important as well, this is the time of year, I suppose, that people are kind of revising policies and procedures and so on. That bit about making sure that your policies support staff well-being and prioritize it. Have you any kind of, quick tips for how you can have a look at policies and make sure that they're aligned with maybe your ethos of supporting staff well-being?
I think certainly, we talk a lot about work-life balance and all of those things. So it's making sure, checking in with staff and talking to your teams, like around hours of work and everything, and people are very much on top of all of these things, but it could be something simple like, how somebody's schedule for the week could be causing a huge issue for them with regards to maybe they have children who need to drop school or anything, and a small change in rotas, that kind of thing. So it's about, walking the walk, not just talking the talk. So it's looking at the policies with those fresh eyes. And as I say, it's not an overhaul of your policies or anything, but if you're talking about work-life balance, just think of it in the context of, hours of work or breaks or, one example that I have, and it's not in the earlier sector, you'd be glad to know, but a friend was telling me about, the organization, it was in retail and would only text people on the Sunday, their hours of work for the week on a Sunday evening. Little things like that is a big thing to somebody, when people might like to plan their week and know when they're in and, make arrangements. So, just to be reflecting on that as how you manage people and what is your policies. And oftentimes the policies would say, how you will do things, but you do them in an entirely different way. And then that can cause a lot of anxiety because people don't know, there's no clarity, there's no consistency. So it's just, it's having a look with fresh eyes and going, are we being clear? And does this policy reflect what we actually do in practice? And if your practice is good, we'll make sure the policy reflects that. But if the practice is not in line with the policy and it's causing undue anxiety or stress for your team members, then take the opportunity to update it and do what you say you're going to do. People like that, and that's feeling respected and feeling valued, and all those things that are important to people's well-being. And that's showing that you mean that, and that people know what to expect, because it's the not knowing can be a huge cause of anxiety to people. If you say people's breaks are at certain times, well, insofar as you can, barring any emergencies, keep to that. Don't just bring it on them. We talk about healthy eating, like part of healthy eating is eating, and, it's set times of the day, or, if someone has gone to the trouble of making themselves a lovely, healthy lunch and then they don't get a lunch break. Well, there's no point in talking about healthy eating in the workplace, So it's probably to be a bit critical of your policies and go, is this actually going to work in practice? So as you say, you can't just say, here, do these courses, box ticked. You have to go, can people bring this back to the workplace? Can we support this? It's just a bit kind of fresh eyes. And you, again, could do it at a staff meeting and just say, is there any areas we need to look at, or look at particular policies? And, you should really be doing that as a team anyway, is looking at your policies together and everything. So it's just maybe adding another check, area to reflect on when you were looking at the policies and go, right, and how is this in the context of well-being, how are we doing here when we reviewed this policy together?
Great. I suppose the essence of what you're saying is being as flexible as you can, while, you know, ensuring that educators understand that, you know, there's a job to be done, regulations to be adhered to, children to be cared for, and that's, you know, that's the main priority. When management display an interest and an ethos of staff well-being, that positively impacts everybody in the setting.
It really does. And if they feel valued and respected and seen, then all of those other things are easier to handle, you know, and they want to be, you know, they want to be present, they want to be doing their best and you know, impacting on the quality for children in their setting. So it's about taking that, you know, and encouraging employees, you know, if you feel well, then you can be really engaged in all of those good things and good practices, you know. So it's about, you know, little changes that can bring positive impacts.
I think that's a lovely phrase to end on, the little changes that can bring very big positive impacts. Gillian, thanks so much for going through the benefits of using Early Childhood Ireland's Learning Hub and the importance of looking at well-being. You know, I think you make the point really well about that it's holistic and it's a whole, you know, kind of chain of events, and that, you know, attending to one thing properly can have a huge domino effect of positive impacts. So I really appreciate you taking the time today. Thank you, Gillian.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for listening to this episode of Early Childhood Ireland's podcast, which is proudly supported by Aricus Insurance. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and spread the word to your friends and colleagues, and stay tuned for our next episode.